How smartphones got evolved. When you think about a smartphone, what comes in your mind? Probably the five pillars of the smartphone, which are great build quality, great performance, great battery life, great cameras, great display, covering the entire front portion of the phone. But if you start looking back in time, one question arises in your mind, and that is, what started it all? How did we come to this point of definition of smartphone or what we know today? Well, it was all started in 1876 when the scientist known as Graham Bell introduced the first ever telephone to the world, and it was basically a device that could transmit vocal sounds, and it took so many reiterations for that phone to convert into something portable device that users would end up carrying in their pockets. Like we saw a bunch of different telephones, from rotary telephones to touch-tone phones, and the main upgrade from that telephone to something which could work wirelessly was when the Motorola company released the first cell phone in the world which could work wirelessly. It was called as Dyna TAC 8000X. It was so bulky that if you hold that thing in your hand, it would probably feel as good as a brick. It was priced at $3,995 in 1984, and it used to take 10 hours to get fully charged and provided only 30 minutes of talk time, which kinda sucks by today's standards, but hey, it was the beginning. After this first cell phone, every single cell phone that came out in the next decade shared the same features as this phone. The main goal of the manufacturers was to fit as many features as possible in as small form factor as possible. Phones were getting smaller and smaller in size, and in 1992 came the technically world's first smartphone. It was called Simon Personal Communicator, and it was created by IBM, and it offered a lot more than the false phones at that time could offer. Simon featured many applications including an address book, calendar, appointment scheduler, calculator, world, time clock, electronic notepad, handwritten annotations, and standard and predictive stylus input screen keyboards. It featured a liquid crystal LCD display and had a PC card support. So it was technically the first smartphone, but it took 2 years for that smartphone to come officially in the market. And 2 years later, in 1994, that smartphone came in the market with a cool price of $1,100, and only 6 months after its release, it had sold over 50,000 units. It had a lot of features, but still it was not a perfect form factor phone because phones at the times were even smaller but offered much less features than that phone could. And the smaller phones were able to perform only some basic tasks such as making phone calls and texting someone, SMS. And in 1996, Nokia managed to release the world's first cell phone to come with internal antenna, which not only helped the phone to get rid of that bulky antenna, but also managed to give the stunning aesthetics to it. Then we saw a boatload of phones from various manufacturers coming with various designs along with a colored display. The companies involved were Samsung, Nokia, Motorola, but the RIM was the one which was considered as the king of the cell phones games in that era. RIM's BlackBerry phones were used to ship with a full-size QWERTY keyboard which made typing a lot easier on the phone, allowing users to reply to emails and messages flawlessly and quickly. It had all the features that a cell phone from that time would have, such as browsing on the web, mobile version of email, taking notes, creating Word documents. It was sort of a baby internet in their pocket. So we can say without a doubt that the BlackBerry was the #1 selling phone of that era. I'm talking about 2000 era here. It wouldn't be wrong if we say that it was the king of the smartphone of that time, until 2007, when Apple released perhaps the most iconic invention of the modern history, the iPhone. It wouldn't be a complete history of phones as long as we don't mention iPhone in it. iPhone took the things to a whole new level, since people weren't expecting anything like the iPhone because they never saw that kind of approach on a cell phone. There was no comparison with the BlackBerry phones since iPhone had dominated it in every regards. The iPhone got rid of the plastic keyboards, allowing the display to be twice as large as opposed to any other phone that existed at that time. The iPhone was also the first phone to support multi-touch display that allowed users to give commands with 2 fingers at the same time. It was much more intuitive user interface as opposed to more traditional keypad and a trackball method of input. In short, the iPhone was a step in the right direction, and all the manufacturers started to copy Apple. All those companies survived that ended up copying Apple, and those that didn't follow the path of the iPhone were failed in the future, such as BlackBerry. BlackBerry didn't copy Apple. Instead, they sticked with a more traditional method of input like the keyboard and a trackball. As opposed to the companies like Google, they instantly recognized the importance of the changes that should be made in their upcoming smartphones. But Google changed the entire pattern of their upcoming smartphone, which was the basically first Android phone in the world, known as T-Mobile G1, released in 2008, a year later after the iPhone was announced. And nearly every single manufacturer, not to mention Samsung, also copied the design of the iPhone, and they sustained in the future. Moreover, they gave a tough competition to Apple with the support of Android in it. As far as BlackBerry was concerned, its sales diminished because they stick with a more traditional method. And after that, smartphones did only get better, with more screen space to play with much better cameras, with much powerful processors to handle graphically intensive games. Nowadays, smartphones can perform many of our basic activities, and to satisfy that much of need, a smartphone needs to have a bigger screen. That's why we want bigger screens, we don't want bigger phones, and that's where the concept of bezel-less phones came into the existence. And we saw phones embracing notches, which houses the important components for a phone like cameras, proximity sensor, earpieces, and all other stuff like punch hole cameras, pop-up selfie cameras, and all that stuff. So apparently we are in the bezel-less era of the smartphones right now, and we're heading towards the foldable screen era, where we can fold the display in half so that we can reduce its form factor, making it easier to hold in one hand or in a pocket, with more screen area to play with, almost twice as big than we have on the normal smartphones today. If you found this video entertaining, please leave a like below and subscribe for more of this content.